Alright, what another week. I've just got off ELF Live again with Nick, so I'll leave that in the description if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts of every single game. But as per usual, we finish the week up. On Monday, we give power rankings, and that's what we're going to go in for today. So we're not going to dilly-dally, we're just going to get straight into it. Now, honestly, let's just cut through a lot of the easier stuff. This one doesn't have to be very long. So, Helvik, Fehervar, Prague, they ain't moving. Milan, Barcelona, and Cologne aren't moving either. So, we're going to talk about them now, but those five are kind of still at the bottom. So, Helvik have missed out again. Another loss. 2 game losing field goals. It's incredibly unlucky. Or, depending on how you look at it. Either way, they could have won that game. But they are going to be rooted to 17th place. Fehervar were on a bye week, which is kind of lucky for them because they don't have Mangle off of injury reserve as far as I'm aware, so he's not playing. So for them, a bye week is incredibly important. Prague got beaten quite badly by Hamburg, but they kind of had that game. They had it in their hands. They really did. They were up at one point. Tyrese Johnson-Fisher made a good return. He scored on his ELF return, debut, whatever. And they had moments. They really did. But then Javarian Smith started going off and had a receiver go over 200, I think it's 230 yards, which is incredible. It's the 8th highest receiving game in ELF history. And that guy fucking did it. I can't remember his name, I'll put it up on screen. But oh my god, what a performance by him, what a performance by Javarian. I stared on the ELF Live, I really don't know what to think of him. I don't know if he's an elite quarterback, I don't know if he's not. Very confusing, but we'll get to Hamburg in a minute. Milan, blown out by Surge. We knew that it would be. They don't have an A at the moment. I've been told, I know who their A is. Not bringing hate, certain directions that franchise is going, man, it's worrying. It is. It's not to say too much on the player. Like, I know he's a great person and whatnot. It's just I don't think it's what they need at the moment. But we'll see as his releases it might be announced. So 13, Barcelona got away with a win. Like they go to 2-2. They beat Helvetic both times they played them, which is huge for them. Honestly, that is really, really important for that rivalry going forward. But they did it with 2 missed field goals. So they haven't warranted enough to move up. They didn't show me enough that they can move up. Levi Lewis has not been very good in the league so far, and they've just not been a very good team. They've got 2 wins, they got 2 losses, but they've also had a massively cakewalk schedule, and they have Milan next week. So we could see Barcelona go 3-2, and they could have their wins over Milan and both of Helvetic games. So that's an interesting one, how that's kind of turned out for them. Barcelona at 13. Cologne, they lost to Madrid. Hard game. They were in it all the way up until they weren't, basically. They lacked the chunk plays. Isaiah Weed had moments, but nothing consistent. Jared Alman is still being a very good running back. He had that long run. But then as soon as they were in the game, 27-24, they just allowed that massive play by Willie P for the long touchdown on the jet sweep on the reverse, and then immediately throw a pick afterwards. Like, they just were victim of big plays. They couldn't go over the hump against a good team, and are unfortunate to be in a really good conference. I can see them moving up at some point. They've remained where they are for a while, but I can see them moving up when they play people who are outside their conference, and when they play Hamburg. I think it's going to be an incredibly interesting game. Now, controversially, this is a big fall off. Wrocław Panthers, wholly unimpressed. 1-3. It's really, really poor on all levels. They've regressed. I don't want to harp on them too much, because I have friends over there in Wrocław. But offensively, every week gone down. Defensively, they were sound. They were good. Their defense, I think, is the consistent thing with this team. AJ Wetlands and all the left linebacker. They turned the ball over. William James looked good on his return back to the league. They created turnovers. They stopped the Galaxy offense for the most part. There was instances where they didn't, but it's a hard offense to contain. But then the offense for Wrocław was awful. They had a run game, but then there was just turnovers and 3-and-outs, and they didn't look like they wanted to win that game. The special teams I've been critical of because Devin Burrell wasn't getting enough of the ball. I don't get it. I know the special teams coordinator. He's probably not watching this, but I don't get why Devin isn't getting the ball more. I think they could really open up more for them. And it's an interesting dichotomy that they were considered one of the front runners for a championship. A couple weeks in, they're 1-3. You know, no one saw this coming, and they've fallen I think every week they've fallen. It's tough, man. It really is. So they're 1-3, and they have moved down 4 positions. Uriah doesn't look like as good as Duncan. I told them. I said that this was a short-sighted decision. It seems as if that has been the case. We'll see if they can shore up offensively over the next couple of weeks. They still have David. They still have Adams. 2 great running backs. They have a great receiver core. They have a good offensive line with good pieces. And they have a really good defense. They just need to put it all together. And I've said on ELF Live, they've had a very tough schedule. That cannot be understated. But to be a championship team, you need to win championship games. You know what I mean? So we'll see how they deal with it. But number 10, Hamburg. They move up 1. They beat Prague. They're 2-1. They're doing good. They have a bit of momentum for them now moving forward. Positive record. They've moved off of 11th place where they've been forever. And they show flashes of the pass game. They didn't rely on a run game nearly as much in this game. Which is interesting. You know, they have been quite a run predominant team, and then they came out against Prague and they were very pass heavy. 47 passing attempts by Javarian Smith. So that could be a new thing teams now have to look out for. So that does add a very interesting dimension, because previously I was like, well, you know, just stack the box and you'll be fine. Force Javarian Smith to pass the ball. No, that's not really the case. You know, you put him in man coverage, the receivers get a good release. He's shown he can have the arm to make those tough throws. So that is very interesting. Hamburg have absolutely got my attention at the moment. I'll be watching those next couple of games with a lot of intensity. Next up, number 9, Berlin. Some people, I think, are going to be a bit surprised. They, of course, are now 2-2. They've moved up 1 spot. And Berlin are a very good team. They've got a very good defense. They've got a very good offense. Like, honestly, Jacob Sullivan looks like an early MVP candidate. He's done extremely well. Like, I'd be incredibly impressed. And of course, they lost to Vienna. And they looked like they could have beat Vienna. If not for lapses of concentration, I'm going to call it. The run game wasn't on. It's been a consistent problem with Berlin for the last few years. And they lost to a Vikings team which is battered and bruised a little bit. The Vikings are still a phenomenal team. We'll get to them later. They have injuries, especially as the quarterback. You know, Ben Holmes out, Epler was in, he looked great. But Berlin didn't get a ball to Bias. I don't think Bias played in this game, so I think he's injured. So they also had their own injuries. Aaron Jackson's phenomenal. Robin Jilchek is Robin Wilczek. You know, he's one of the best European receivers we have. They just kind of gave the ball away, and down the stretch in the 4th quarter, they just didn't really look like they wanted it. They were pretty consistent. 7 points, 6 points, 7 points in the first 3 quarters. Nothing in the 4th quarter. Very much stagnant. And in the first 2 quarters, they didn't allow any. They allowed 1 field goal. And then in the last half, they allowed 22 points. So, not very clutch, but they do find themselves moving up because they show potential to compete with these big teams. And I think that's a very important factor to consider with Berlin. Is I said they lack a statement win, and that is still the case, but they've showed that they can maybe compete with these bigger teams, and that's important. Going into the top 8, we're speeding through these ones. This is, like I said, this one's going to be quick because the first half of the league really hasn't moved very much. I don't think we're going to see a ton of movement with that. But I do want to talk about Frankfurt. They haven't moved, and I think they can kind of consider themselves quite lucky that they haven't moved down, because that was not an impressive performance at all. Like, Luke Zaradka has had accuracy issues all year. He goes under 50% again. He's about 50% for his 2024 season, which is poor. Threw a pick in the, there was it was just decision making. And this was my thing with Luke in the preseason, was decision making, and you don't want the offense to divulge into just throwing it deep. And he had Paul Lenhart, who had a great game, by the way, and Markel Castle wide open in a ton of space, multiple times, and it became to throw in. And I kind of feel like the Frankfurt offensive coaching staff or play calling or whatever is kind of somewhat trying to pad the stats, because they were in the red zone at like 5 and they had like 3 passes in a row, and I don't really know why they didn't run the ball. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. They didn't look great in the red zone. I thought they struggled. I think that they didn't do well. I was very unimpressed. Of course, I have my stream where you can see my whole reaction to every single part of the game, but overall, I just wasn't incredibly impressed. Defensively, though, they were phenomenal. Ugo Dyrol did so well. Darren Okungagwe, also I mentioned. Achane, Bruins. Sorry, not Achane. Achentry. Bruins. Buckaram. Poznanski. Leicester. All these guys did very well. So I don't want to take away from the defense. They had a great showing. Limiting the Panthers to only 10 points. You can't really complain with that. So it was good. It was a good defensive showing. It's just the offense kind of said that this was the year, to beat everyone, and they aren't really doing it very convincingly. And they're 1-2, so they're the only team in the top 8 with a negative record. And there are teams like Berlin who are kind of breathing up their necks. Same with Hamburg, breathing up their necks. Cologne even. They're not that far off, and they're in the same conference. So that's some very important games coming up in that division very, very, very soon. I think Frankfurt need to improve offensively a lot in the passing game, the running game. They're creating space. It's just they need to find a way to get it. They need to find a way to get the ball in hand. But number 7, Munich Ravens, down 1, 2-2. Now, no one really expected the Ravens to be as troubled as they have been so far in the year. They again are kind of a team that could be considered quite lucky to be at number 7 at the moment. They lost 26-29 to the Raiders Tyrrell, and they had the game in their fucking hands. They really did. Chad Jeffries didn't play exceptional. He did his job, but it wasn't a great performance. Rodney had another good game. Chad did actually get 3 touchdowns, so Chad played well. But there was he was good. He wasn't blowing it up, but he was good. Tommy Wood was back. Marvin Rouge had a touchdown on that great play on the right side of the field, but defensively struggled. That last drive, 3 fourth downs conceded in one drive, is unacceptable. I'm sure the coaches and there are saying the same thing, to be completely honest, but you cannot allow 3 fourth down conversions on a game-winning drive at any level of football. That's just not great. I disagree with a lot of play calling during that last drive. I think putting a linebacker on Chafin, who's been tearing the team up all game, and then just giving him an inside release for an open touchdown in the end zone, I think is bad play calling. I think you put Darius on him, or you put Nitzlander on him. You need someone who can cover that man one-on-one and get physical on the catch point, because Chafin has dropped balls. But they didn't, and they lost. It was tough, because that defense played pretty well for some parts of it. The defensive line didn't get home as much as I expected them to. They did put pressure on Nkosi Perry in his debut, but weren't efficient on third downs. They didn't get a bunch really going on defense, and that was kind of what killed the cat. But of course, one man's fall is another man's rise, and the Tyrrell Raiders Tyrrell, find themselves 3-1, up 3 points from last week. Bonatti is finally, he had a bit of a dry stretch, but he's back. 2 touchdowns, 112 on the ground, and of course, Nkosi Perry is the obvious storyline. That last drive was phenomenal. He looked poised at times. He had a good game. He did, he wasn't, a fucking MVP favorite or anything, but he did good. in his debut, especially after, 4 days, I think Nick said that he had to prepare for the game. Chafin still needs to work on his hands on these easier catches, but man, that man is clutch. Like, he could bring the ball in on the toughest full stretch out, 4th and 15 on the sideline, toe drag while triple covered, but he sometimes will drop a 5-yard hitch uncovered on 1st and 5 on the fucking first play of the game. Like, very inconsistent, which has not favoured them in the past, but of course he favoured them this time because he got the game-winning touchdown. He did a very good job on that last drive. Finished with 131 yards and 2 touchdowns, so can't really complain. Defensively, around, but not great. I don't think either defense really did spectacular in this game. You know, the Ravens did pick off N'Kosi Perry, and the Raiders did pick off Chad Jeffries, so they kind of did a little bit, but yeah, it was a good game by the Raiders. They were able to get over a division rival, which cannot go understated. They moved to 3-1, and I know a lot of Raiders fans are going to be very happy that they're, you know, getting a bit of steam behind them after the quarterback controversies of the last few weeks. You know, 3 weeks, 3 quarterbacks is not good, but it seems like N'Kosi Perry will be the guy. I really hope he is, because I don't think I can go through another QB controversy. There'll probably be another one at some point in the next couple of weeks, but it looks like the Raiders have found a guy they can trust. I really hope that they found their guy, because, man, please just settle for a quarterback. You know, N'Kosi Perry looks good. Let's just see how he does next week. Short week, did well. I was impressed. I think he did a good job. Number 5, Paris Musketeers. Fallen 4 times. Of course, my number 1 on ELF Live and also on my own show, podcast, fucking production, or what you would call this at all, in my channel. They fall 4. They were my big favourites to upset Rhein, and you know, they were the team that was really could compete with them. I think they showed that lack of championship experience in this game. And we'll get to Ryan Fire in a minute, but Zach Edwards, 2 picks. It was his first picks of the year. The run game never really got started. Anthony Mahonwu was out, which was a big dent. Austin Mitchell couldn't really get cooking. He only had 2 catches in the day for 6 yards. Defensively, they did a good job. They kind of had a pick. They had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. They bent and didn't really break. They only allowed 19 points to a team which a really good offense, so they did good. That last drive, man, I don't know what went into that last drive. They had a lot of time on the clock to run maybe 4 plays. Now, they had about 90 seconds. They had no timeouts, but they were on like the 44 or the 50, but in that range. And they could have ran an out scheme just to get a player out of bounds. They could have had, you know, short pass to get 10 yards and then spike it rather. And they just threw a deep bomb. I'm not sure if that was processing on Edwards' part or if that was the plan to go for a shot. It was confusing. They didn't take the opportunities when they presented themselves. They weren't efficient on 3rd downs. Yeah, it was unfortunate. You know, 2 picks, interceptions are always going to kill a team, and they fall 4 places, which is huge. A big drop off for them. Number 4, again, big fall offs. We're going to have people rising up. The Rhein Fire. They made a great comeback statement. Glenn's probably going to be second player of the week. No offense, Glenn, but that guy from Hamburg did a phenomenal job in getting one of the best all-time receiving games. But he had 31 carries for 206 yards, as well as leading the leading receiver with 52 yards. Actually, he might actually just get MVP. But, you know, another touchdown for him on the year. He looks great. He looks right back into form. You know, he never really dipped, but, you know, he's Glenn Tonka. He's a fucking weapon. So they move up 3-1. Their competition has been crazy hard, and they've got a load of injuries, and they've still managed to be 3-1, which I think a lot of people are underestimating. People were very much like, oh, you know, Rhein Fire are over. They're done. This is a new era. This is not the same. This is not your dad's Rhein Fire. But they're 3-1. They're still very much in the title contention. They've beaten Paris. They've beaten the Galaxy. They lost to Madrid, who are a very formidable team. So, you know, it's it's easy to write them off, but I wouldn't write them off just yet. They've still got a lot left in the tank, and hopefully when McKnight comes back and with Harlan Kofi comes back, because he was in this game but didn't register a catch. I think he was just kind of there to kind of bait the defense. He didn't have a very active role. He's probably still rehabbing back, which is expected. Tony Anderson, phenomenal job. I reached out to him afterwards. He's like, "What's my evaluation?" I promise I'm doing that evaluation soon. I did do all of the film study for that a while back. I just kind of got stuck with the preseason development of everything going on. But they had a lot that they could be proud of. Amari Williams also with that pick, like, to seal that one. So they did a great job. And there you go, up to number 4. Number 3, the team that beat the Rhein Fire, Madrid Bravos. Another solid display without the guy they brought in at the start. You know, they've got Steve Duncan, who I think is an elite quarterback at this level. I really do. His decision making in the past has not been elite level, but he is an elite quarterback. He showed poise. He spread the ball out really well. He hit all of his different receivers. The run game was on with Dwayne Obi. Like, Sinerdo got a catch. Madden Siestra had multiple. Flores, Patterson, Obi, Ibanez, Manola. Like, all these guys got catches. Carrasco got a catch as well. Like, all of these guys got a touch at the ball. Which is a stark contrast to Cologne, who only got 4 receivers involved with the play. So, they're spreading the ball out. The run game is stunning. Obi is one of the best running backs in the league. He can also catch out of backfield. Willie had that massive jet sweep go for the whole distance. They have explosive players. They have explosive plays. They haven't turned the ball over a lot. They got stout defense, which is a mixture of amazing players like Fortes and Emery, and a great pass rusher with Iles and Janelle Pelly, and Vero's a playmaker. Sebastian Bowen, you know, he's been a very impressive. They've got so many guys on this team, and it's really exciting to see how good they're doing. And Stephen Duncan just kind of slipped in seamlessly, and I was very, very impressed. You know, they won 11 points against a tough competition. It was close, and they were able to pull away. So I think they did very well. Every kind of level of their team shone in this win. Going into number 2, another riser. Everyone in this top 4 has risen up since Paris fell down so much. Number 2 is Stuttgart Surge. Beat up on a bad team. You know, I don't really give much credence to teams playing people like Milan, to be completely honest. And they did their job. They had the backups in. They showed their depth. Shout out to Heinrich. He got 3 touchdowns as a backup player. He did extremely well. Run game was over 100 yards, or maybe like 9. No, it was 99. No, 101. It was 101 yards. So they got just over 100 yards rushing. Geyer is a potential rookie of the year, potential all-star. Probably is going to be an all-star. Meyer did his job when he needs to. You know, like they said, they have their backups in quite early. Milan's defense is good, but it was absolutely no match for Surge. I picked them by 50. They won by not 50, but pretty close. And yeah, they just never really looked in trouble. Hennessy's an MVP favorite. They got all-star receivers all over there without an American, really. Like, Hazelton didn't get much of the ball at all. He only got 4 catches. He got 4 catches, 63 yards. Who did a good job. They didn't really need much. Like, they were running through them. So they extend their win streak. They're the big bad wolf for the moment, as I was saying to Hennessy. Efficient in the red zone. 7 for 7 is incredible. They just trounced them. And they're a bad team. You know, Milan are a bad team. So give it that what you will. I'm still going to raise them up. They're very, very close to our number 1, which is the Vienna Vikings. You could argue the other way around. I completely understand that. You could argue Stuttgart at 1. You could argue Vienna at 1. They're kind of my 1A and 1B. I just kind of liked how Vienna has handled their adversity they've been faced. They've been without their starting quarterback for the last 2 weeks, and they've got in an American and a homegrown. They've won both of those games. Karabajarian is one of the best running backs in the league. Jordan Bilwa was excellent. Torre is a great receiver. Reese Horn looks like a really nice addition to the offense. Schutz has had a breakout year as a receiver. Defensively, one of the best defenses, if not actually my favourite defense in the entire league. I'm going to be straight. My favourite defense in the entire league. Sacks everywhere. Big plays everywhere. Hunter Nichols, one of my favourite safeties. Xavier Edwards is a baller. Lalo, coming off the fucking edge as a nickel, he's done extremely well in that position. I did not think he would be as instrumental to this defense. I was completely wrong on him. Noah Swanko, a player I'm going to make a video on. Talitsa, 3.5 sacks. Like, they had a 3.5 sack performance this one. They had a 5 sack the week before with Bombeck. No, Leon Ball. What can you do with that? I really do want to see that Stuttgart versus Vienna matchup. I think it's going to be incredibly exciting. But they are going to be my my number one team. Again, I feel like you could go either way. Like, you could argue between both of those, and I absolutely would not be mad. So I know that I see Marcus. I know you're probably watching this. I appreciate you, Marcus, and I know you're going to probably want the surge up top, which I get. I do. I understand. But that defense of Vienna is honestly something special. Like, it really is. 3 undefeated teams at the top as well, which is interesting. We got a bunch of matchups next week, which I'm going to read out now and see if they will impact the standings. That's what I'm going to see now. So let's have a little look at the game center. See what we got for week 5. So we've got Milan versus the Dragons. That's going to be an interesting matchup. We've got the Raiders versus the Mercenaries. Should be a Raiders win, but Surge play the Munich Ravens, and that's going to be incredibly interesting. And also, so the Berlin Thunder versus the Rhein Fire. This week's a bit more of a quiet one, granted, but I still think it's going to be an interesting week, and we'll get to that in tomorrow's video, where we will break down everything. Let's have a little final look at the full rankings, just to finish this up. So, 17, Mercenaries, bad performance, missed field goals, should have won the game. Verherva didn't play. Prague had flashes, fumbled the ball away. Milan got beat up by a contender. Dragons got a win, but not convincing. 12, Cologne lost, but had some flashes, but didn't do enough to move up. 11, Wrocław Panthers, big fall off, very underwhelming display on pretty much all levels. Number 10, Hamburg Sea Devils, they move up one, good performance, did well, beat a bad team. Number 9, Berlin Thunder, lost, but showed those flashes that we want to see from a near middle of the pack team. Number 8, Frankfurt Galaxy, 1 and 2, got their first win, absolutely needed on a good team with a lot of talent. They didn't move, they've stayed where they are. They need to carry on where they're going with this momentum. Number 7, Munich Ravens, -1, lost in a heartbreaker, but an easily avoidable heartbreaker. Number 6, Raiders Tyrrell, win in a heartbreaker. But they easily could have lost that game, but they move up to 3-1. They're now in prime position to be second place in that division and make the playoffs. They move up 3 spaces. Paris Musketeers, -4. Big loss against a contender with the Rhein Fire in the division. Possibly showed some holes within their offensive scheme and defensive exploits, so we could see going forward. Number 4, Rhein Fire, bounce back win, huge over a division rival. Massive for confidence, they move up 1 spot. Madrid, routine win, showed the explosiveness, didn't miss a beat by missing a quarterback. They come in at number 3. Stuttgart Surge at 2, good win on a bad team, so they stay where they are. Vienna overcome more adversity at number 1. They are going to stay after beating the Berlin Thunder in a come from behind victory that showed a lot of heart and showed that they are a team that just dealt with a lot more adversity than normal. So let's go round this out. Hope you enjoyed this one. This one was, I said, going to be a little bit quicker, and I think it's ended up being a little bit longer actually, just because of how many storylines really unfolded this week. But for plans, what am I going to make this week? I'm still making the London Monarchs team. That is still in production. It takes a long time to decide what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to try and get that out this week. If I can, it might be next week, but I'm going to try and do what I can with that. I'm doing how they're going to win, or how I think they should win tomorrow. And I might fit an eval in it. I usually do. It might be a British player that I eval due to me looking at so many British players at the moment. Whether it be Obi again, because I know people have wanted an Obi video again, to follow up on the last one I did. Could could be a Glenn. I'm not sure what I want to do with an eval, but it might be something like that. But anyway, waiting for the Monarchs one. It's going to be a good one. That's going to be like a 2-hour video. So if you like long form content, the London Monarchs one is going to be very long. It'll probably be over an hour. I'm absolutely stealing Brett Coleman's idea like fully. So it's going to be an extremely long video. It's going to be edited quite a lot. It's going to be a lot of this, me just talking to camera. We're probably going to have a gin and just drinking while I'm on camera, which I've never done before. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone to support the stream. ELF Live in the description. Support's been amazing as always. Thank you to everyone for subscribing. We're up to nearly 1,100 now, which is cool considering like a month ago we were at like 800, so we've had a big rise. And thank you to ELF for having me on the last like 4 live streams. It's been great. So yes, I think that's everything. Thank you very much. Stay sharp out there. See you later and goodbye.